Um, we already saw with Jacquet that we have a lot of challenges and things to challenge in innovation and women. So I will try to put a different spin on it and challenge innovation myth from the feminine side. So I will tackle a couple of those myths. The first one is innovation is reserved to the elite. The answer is no. We will see why. Innovation has to be managed like a business with KPIs and so on. Well, this is a different animal. Emotions have no place in business. They do in innovation. And the female market is a niche market, one of my favorite topics here. And we will then go through some highlights of the presentation and some takeaways. So tackling first, the innovation is reserved to the elite. Sandra mentioned, I worked for 31 years in the corporate world and always in innovation, in technology and in marketing and in business. When I moved from the corporate world to the world of business, small businesses and entrepreneurs, I realized that a lot of people did not really know what innovation was. This is this big word. And they figured that innovation has to be big. It has to change the world. It has to be international. You have to have a big name, have a lot of money and resources. Well, no. True innovation is not that. Of course, it helps to have resources, but true innovation is not about money and fame. The second, oh, sorry. Oops. Oh, I'm going the, oh my God, I'm going in the wrong direction here. Sorry about that. So let me share again. All right. Share. Okay. Hopefully we are back. This innovation, you try, you fail, you go back and persist and never been discouraged.
No worries, Fabienne, we can see you. It's all good. We see your screen and we see you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that. So why do people think that innovation is actually reserved to the elite? Jacquet gave you some numbers, okay? And these are other facts. If 29% of women are in corporate executive roles, actually 43% is HR and 16% in executive roles in innovation. I don't think, even if HR is a huge and very important function in a company, but innovation at the future of the company doesn't really happen and is driven by HR. So a lot of men are taking the decisions in innovation, and men are more present in the elite of the business, hence the understanding that men are the elite and are driving innovation. Another other numbers are also very interesting is that in the US, in the S&P 500 organizations, if the workforce is composed of 45% of women, only 5% of them are CEOs. Again, and this is just to emphasize what Jacquet has said, and also in the context of Africa, but globally is the same issue. Men are driving the business, and as the business, again, the big organizations are responsible for most innovation in the world, although entrepreneurship is growing. This is why people have this perception. There is another very interesting cultural reason, is that innovation is considered to be for rebels and adventurers. And actually, fun fact, in the 17th century, innovation was not the hype and sexy and very hip, word it is now, and very interesting, and everybody wants to be in innovation and so on. Actually, in the 17th centuries, innovators are their ears cut off, literally, because innovation was considered as heresy and rebellion, and it was not really accepted. There is something left those days about that. We always hear that innovators, and especially in big companies, are rebels and they are outliers, but this is good. We need that. Now, as you know from education, and Jacquet said that also, boys are raised to be brave, to be adventurous and so on, and girls to get married, be quiet and so on. Again, the innovation was thought that, oh, men are adventurers, this is innovation, this is adventurers, they're better than women. Another myth. This is not true. And another fact, Jeanette said a lot about that, so I will not elaborate on it, is that innovation started actually in science and technology and was measured by patents. You know that until recently, a lot of universities didn't accept women. So again, because it was rooted in the science, the technology, women didn't have access to it. So this myth that innovation is for the elite, innovation is, reserved to men because they know what they do and so on. But as Janet mentioned, women are extremely good at science and so on. Hey, this is we see the results as students, but then it has to transfer into the corporate life. So now I will make you work a little bit. And because if you Google innovation definition, you get more than 1 billion hits. And most of the definitions are very complicated. It's big words, big sentences, not a little bit intimidating. And I must say that the most helpful definition I found on Google that is featured there is innovation is the act of innovating. Thank you. So what is for you innovation? If you could please answer in the chat, and Sandra and Jessica will help me there, it would be fantastic. So just don't write a novel, just keywords. What is innovation for you?
Okay, so please put your answers here in the chat so I can tell Fabienne. I said it in my intro, but I can repeat it again. For me, innovation is shaping the future. And you can shape the future in multiple ways. You can do it in a way that is useful for society, that leads to a better tomorrow, or you can do it in another way. So I'm hoping that we are going to not go to the dark side of innovation, is what one of my friends would call it. We have a couple of answers here. So there's a person who says ideas brought, hold on, now it's scrolled. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
There's a lot of
Live,
answers. Ideas brought to action, new usages, creating value, improvement, daring to dream, a process of change that leads to meaningful value, wow. Coming up with new ways to solve problems, fulfilling a need, ideas that work, creating value in a new way. It has to do with something new, but it's more of the value that it adds to people. Deeply understanding challenges and trying ideas to address those challenges. Something new and interesting.
Wow.
There is a lot. I can keep going here.
I think for the sake of time, we have to cut there, but thank you so much. And actually, I suspect that some people may have read the book, okay?
Potentially, we'll buy it.
But I'm very happy because usually I have a lot of long sentences. I appreciate that people really went into something simple. So I'm trying to demystify innovation because again, it's supposed, and thank you, Sandra, it's supposed to be this big thing. No, but innovation is something. And okay, I know it's not scientific, but something is very important because when we think innovation, usually we jump to products. Innovation is a new beauty cream, it's a new car, but it can be a service. The first time we could do online banking was innovation. It can be a business model. The platform business of Uber or Airbnb is definitely new. It can be a process. The first assembly line from Henry Ford was that. So we have to really open our eyes. Innovation can be anything. It's not just a physical product. Second very important word, and we heard it a lot, of course, is new. Tell me, if it's not new, it's not innovation. However, new is very important because it can be new to the world. The first person who discovered the vaccine concept, it was definitely new to the world and had a huge impact. But it can be new to the industry, like the electric car. It can be new to your company. It can be new to you as a person. So the newness is linked really to the scope, geography and so on, but also to the impact it has. But there is no small innovation. We will see small ideas can build big ones. Okay. And the last one, and I'm so delighted because it's not that often that I hear that creates value. And value, I always say, is like beauty. Value is in the eyes of the beholder. Value to you may not be value to another person, It's very well known that if you are lost in the Death Valley in the middle of summer, a bottle of water has more value than a $500 bill. So, and I will give another example. If I tell you that this young entrepreneur created rock climbing training, which I mean, that's not new. Well, when you know that she created that rock climbing training for beaten women, for women who have been abused, with the objective of bringing them back their confidence, and she designed the exercises for that, for them to be more confident in them. So then suddenly it's more innovation. It's something, training. It's new. It didn't exist for beaten women. It creates value, of course, for the person who gives the training, but it gives a huge value to the women. Basically, it's giving them back their life. Okay, so I hope it helps to have something to keep it quite simple about that. So any reaction or comment to the definition? Any top line thoughts, any comment, any build on this? It's far from being perfect. Like, this definition is innovation. It can be improved. Okay, this is the first thing that came into my mind, that I tried to say, yeah, it sounds simple enough that, we can all think we are all innovators. We can all create something like that.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I did my master's in innovation, and we always struggled with these like sentence long, paragraph long definitions of innovation. Everybody understands something else. So I actually really agree with your very short version of what innovation looks like. I think that it's really good. I think that that's also the reaction that I'm getting here in the chat. People are saying that it's simple, it has a lot of depth. So that's great. So
Thank you. All right. Now, innovation has to be managed like a business. And how is the business managed? As we saw, is mainly driven by the masculine energy. So it's about performance, it's about results, it's about KPIs and reporting to next quarter to Wall Street and so on. But innovation cannot be managed like that, because if it's managed like that, you get incremental, very small innovation. It was early in my career, and I was responsible for the dish liquid category. And I had a new project I was so excited about, because it was to develop a new variant based really on for a specific target. So I did it the feminine way. I put a team together, a very diverse team. We started to interview the consumers, understand their needs, go to market and so on, understand the competition. And then we were in the middle of a brainstorming session when the big boss just burst into the room and said, well, I had my shower this morning. I had an idea for this new dish liquid. It should be that. It was early in my career. I didn't push back. We developed the thing. It was not a bad idea, but it was just incremental. And it just, was, cannibalizing, the main line. Now, if you want to create meaningful innovation, you don't do that. So what I suggest, and my hypothesis, is that both feminine and masculine energies and traits are needed for innovation. I don't know, I'm talking about women in innovation, so I'm sure you're familiar with the process. I try to simplify because in fact, it's a very iterative process. But basically you go from nothing to a commercial proposition. When you go from nothing to a prototype, this is what we call, the discovery phase of the front end, and then you take the prototype and make it a reality, scale up and so on. This is the back end, the execution for innovation. What I'm saying is that the masculine traits we just talked about, which is the business, the KPIs, the decision-making, the rigor and so on, this is very good, excellent for the back end of innovation, taking the prototype, making a reality. However, the front end, which is about understanding the consumers, analyzing the data, creating ideas, brainstorming and so on, it requires more feminine traits. So what did the big boss in the previous slide do? He actually started there in the middle. Oh, I have an idea, jump to prototype and jump to execution. And again, it creates something incremental. And we talked about that, Jeanette and Sandra and Jessica talked about that. We need meaningful innovation. If you want something to be meaningful in innovation, you need to spend time in the discovery phase. What I suggest also, okay, first, before we go that, let's talk about masculine and feminine a little bit, and I will make you work a little bit, and I think I have to accelerate here. To the right, this is me in my 20s. You can see I was a rebel. And this is me recently. I was driven really by the masculine energy when I was younger, being born and raised between two brothers and being a scientist. I had to use the same weapons as Guy who wanted to survive in that world. But life, luckily, taught me that I had this feminine side right here in my belly, and it was latent, it was dormant, but I'm lucky enough that I met the right people and did the right work to reconnect to my feminine. And today I'm much more balanced in terms of being a human being in the feminine and the masculine. So let's explore a little bit the masculine and the feminine. And we can argue what is masculine, what is feminine. I took, and in your handouts, actually, you do have the reference of this book from Nilima Bhatt and Raj Sisodia, which is great, Shakti Leadership. And this is what they define, and I like that. I think they have a great definition. So you have the feminine on the left, and you have the masculine on the right. So now I would like again to make you work. And this time we'll have a little poll. So Sandra or Jessica, if you don't mind running the poll, it would be fantastic. And this is really, I know you, and you have only one answer, is you are rather feminine or rather masculine based on these traits, okay? So just go, and I'm really curious to see the results, because I did that in different contexts. I did that in the energy sector, I did that in the finance. It was like very masculine. I did that in the well-being, in the fashion, it was very feminine. So it's very interesting to see how people perceive themselves depending on the sector they work in. And here we have a variety of people. So,
so we're running it right now, and the results right now look like 57% masculine and 43% feminine, but it is still going on.
Of course. Yeah, let me know when it's done. No, but it's interesting because I did it recently in finance, and it was like 75-80% masculine right away. So it's very interesting to understand the audience here.
Keep posting, you guys. Just click on what Jessica posted. Just click on feminine or masculine, and then we can see what is happening. So right now we're at 54% feminine, 46. Okay, it's back to 50-50.
Yes, no, it's nice, perfect. It's the first time actually that I get such a balanced crowd, which is excellent, because it's an innovator crowd, so they should be balanced to be.
And we have a lot of women participating in this event.
Yes, well. But again, and this is the next. So perhaps we will stop, because I look at the watch and I want to make sure that we can finish.
So final result right now is at 46% feminine and 54% masculine. There's a lot of women or a lot of people who are saying that they want to vote for both. And then there's also the feedback, which I can also understand, that I feel like they should rename the labels, that maybe this is a little bit confusing.
No, I know, and it's but it's not easy, because it's feminine, masculine, like this black and white, like it's night and day. We have this dichotomy, but I agree that it's so charged with masculine is good, feminine is bad, and hard and soft. Anyway, so we will talk about that, because actually, gender and sex, thank you again, Sandra, is not 0 or 1. It's not that. It's a spectrum. It's a continuum. And as we saw, we say, I'm both. I don't feel that I need to have this label. So you have people who are very feminine, very masculine, but most of us, and we saw that, we are in fact on the spectrum. So I'm more on the, I would say 65% masculine, perhaps, but we are on this spectrum and we feel it. So now I will ask you to work again. And if you could share something feminine and something masculine about you, again, answer in the chat. And I put back this, but you can put other traits that are not here. No, it's not limited. I know personally, I'm very intuitive, but I'm also very assertive. Sandra?
Yes. So I am.
How are you personally?
I tend to be very empathetic to a point of failure. But I also tend to be action oriented. For example, I want things to happen, and I want things to kind of move along. So I've learned to try and balance both of them out. I have been very much on the more masculine side in the past, and I'm learning to work more with my
Thank you.
feminine side, which is more intuitive, but it felt not like the right thing to do for a long time.
Absolutely. I talk about that a lot. The intuition is something that people push back because it's not serious, but it
Yeah.
is. It's
So we're
scientific.
getting some words
Yes.
here now. So we're
Okay.
getting empathetic and logical, intuitive and logical, empathetic and disciplined, empathetic and assertive, focused and intuitive, a creative who loves spreadsheets and statistics.
I love that. Yes, this is perfect. This is the perfect innovator's profile, balanced.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so for the book, I did a lot of research because I'm very intrigued. Thank you again, Sandra. I'm very intrigued about what's happening in the brain. And like every field in science, there is a lot of controversy about, is there a feminine and a masculine brain? And the consensus today is that brains are more similar than they are different between men and women. Now, there are some statistical differences in the brains. Chemically, first, men have more testosterone and women more oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. We have more as women connection between the two hemispheres, and men use more of the gray matter, which is more focus and speed, and we use more of the white matter, which is more connecting the dots. So at the end of the day, we are more naturally inclined to emotions, words, and communications, which is very, very important in innovation. The piece of good news is that, like for gender, it's not 0 or 1. The brain plasticity is huge, which means that at any time in our life, even when we age, we can rewire our brains. And actually, we can, if we want to, and it's hard work. It's a discipline, it's hard work, it's practice, but we can acquire any skill if we really want to. And as we saw, the good news is that we need both the masculine and the feminine in innovation. Another thing is that emotions have no place in business. I started with the pandemic I used to go to a yoga studio, and I started to do my yoga online. And a friend of mine, and I was not happy with the videos. It was like all these women, they're very sexy, the perfect pose. And I didn't connect. I didn't feel comfortable. And one day a friend of mine told me, try yoga with Adrienne. So I tried. And I fell in love. And I was back on my mat thanks to her. And I said, why is that? Because she connected emotionally with me. She did, because she was very simple, very down to earth. She said, oh, it's not the perfect pose. That's okay. This is another way for you to do it. She has her assistant who is her dog, Benji. So she touched me emotionally. And because of that, I did yoga, and she's making money. It's not, like, so emotions are totally acceptable, and they create innovation that sells. And I wanted just to quote here the famous biologist Edward Wilson, who said, creativity is what makes us human. Creativity is, in fact, the unique and defining trait of our human species. So yes, we need KPIs. Yes, we need processes in innovation. But the most important, we need the emotions to make sure that we create innovation that emotionally connects with the consumers. Processes have their place, but they need to have their place if they are driving the process of innovation. If they are only that is creating new product, you will not have good and sustainable innovation and meaningful innovation for the consumers. So I am a chemist. I had to create my little formula. So you remember the front end, the discovery part of innovation? I identified, from my experience and through a lot of research, I identified 6 feminine traits that I think are absolutely critical for the front end of innovation. And they are linked to the process, but they are on top of the process. And we heard a lot in the chat about empathy. Empathy is huge. Empathy is the biggest feminine skill that we can apply there. And again, we can challenge if they are feminine or not. I have evidence that some are really feminine because of the brain and the upbringing and so on. Some are less. So I love the challenge between masculine and feminine, because we have to be ready for that. So if you have empathy, nurturing for the ideas, inclusivity to get everybody's ideas, intuition, that is huge and is happening in the brain, gratitude for the other functions and the other people, you catalyze that with collaboration. Then you get innovation that emotionally resonates with the consumers, the heart, and brings money to the bottom line. Moving now to the last point, which is the female market is a niche market. I'm sure you heard that. Do you know what this number is? It's actually the, and we don't have time, I guess, for the chat here, but it is actually the size of the female economy. The growth market is bigger than China and India combined. It's huge. And it's no wonder. First, we are a little more than 50% of the population. But very importantly, women control 85% of the global consumer spending. We buy for ourselves, but we also buy for the people in our family. And we buy for the household. So this is not a small business. And it's still an untapped business. And why is that? Why is it an untapped business? This is another book I recommend, which is also in your handouts, is Invisible Women. And Caroline has this great quote here: we're so used to thinking of men as the default. So men innovate for men as, men with their needs in mind, and women as a sort of niche, like a variety of men. How many times, for example, you develop a bike and they say, oh, let's do a bike for women. Let's do a smaller bag and pink. And we had the story of the famous big pen for women. That was a big flop, luckily. But it's what we call the phenomenon of shrink it and pink it. And this is what's happening. And when men innovate for women, we end up with that. We end up with high heels that drive women to the emergency room. I had a recent foot surgery because for my entire life, I wore those high heels. I was running in those and so on without understanding it was hurting me as a woman in my body. So women, again, as understanding the actual needs of consumers, and we are women, we are in the best position to innovate for women, or at least with the feminine skills of empathy, because some men are excellent at innovating for women when they practice empathy and all these nice feminine skills. Okay, takeaways. I will not go into a lot of details because you also have that in your handouts. So anybody can be an innovator, but it requires a lot of work, persistence, passion, and some skills, as we saw. It's a lot of work. It's not those crazy guys, with crazy hair in a room full of bean bags. It's not that. It's really blood, sweat, and tears. We need both the masculine and the feminine energies to have meaningful innovation. Emotions are a key driver of innovation, along with processes, of course. And the female economy is a big untapped opportunity. I cannot run this for the time sake, but also for copyright reasons. But again, it's in your handouts. I encourage you to listen to that. It's fantastic. It's just saying that, the world has been driven by men. Look out where we are, at the brink of disaster. Put a woman in charge. This is my book, as we mentioned, is available in a paperback and ebook. And you also have that in the handouts if you want to learn more. I'm working on the hardcover and the audiobook. And with this, this is my information if you want to reach me. And thank you so much for having me and for listening and for participating. I really appreciated that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fabienne. The audience absolutely loves you. We have a lot of comments to say, oh, she doesn't have to go faster. I'm happy to stay on a little longer. So yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. And to you guys out there, you ladies out there, I at least started reading Fabienne's book. I'm going to be very honest, I haven't finished yet, but everything that I've read so far is really interesting and it's really fun to read. So it's not just like your standard business book, but she has great examples. It's really engaging. So I really want to encourage you to read it, to take a look. And thank you so much, Fabienne, for all of the book recommendations. It's funny because you mentioned the book, right? I have it right here. Invisible Women. It's one of my, it is fantastic.
I love it.
It is great. And it is terrifying. I think
exactly. But you don't look at your daily life the same way after that.
Exactly. It's like, what do you mean, cleaning streets of snow, healthcare, connecting all these things? It's crazy. So yeah, we have a bunch of books that we actually put together in the Resource Center for you that you can take a look at. At this point, thank you so much, Fabienne.